Hello, everyone. Some of you probably have noticed that this is going to be a new video compared to the one that I just did last night. I'm having to redo it. I noticed a mistake in it. I left a post-it note on one of my pieces of paper with someone's name and phone number on it. And when I went into Adobe Premiere to try to edit that out, I wasn't having much luck. So here I am. I'm going to redo the video, re-upload. Some of you will not even know, but you do now. So anyway, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about the stick. I'm going to do a couple of drawings. It's very important, that stick in the treasure chest. I'm going to talk about Yellowstone. I'm going to talk about Jack. And then we'll talk about Mike McDonald and Dan Barbarosi. And a little bit about Forrest the pilot, which has to do with the way things have ended. So with that being said, I'm going to start drawing. While I'm drawing, I'm going to be talking about these different subjects here. I'm going to turn this light table on. So the first picture I'm going to be drawing, making tracing a drawing of this, is this area right here. And you will start to see right off the bat what that entails. I'm going to go back to the book real quick. So I know as far as my solve, something that's very important, this red, do not touch. Susie Finhaven was on the other night. I didn't catch it live, but I watched it afterwards. I think it was Sunday night or whenever that was. And then she had a video on last night, and she had talked about, on page 55, the word home, and it's in brown, home of brown, and then she's talking about the line. Well, another thing, I'm going to let her know that my solve, which I think is the right solve, has a lot to do with this halt. She's saying halt. And with my solve, it has to do with a line. Now, a line, to me, is a border. So, and I'm going to try not to say so a lot, but I do that a lot. Pictures have borders. Property line has borders, whether it be private, BLM, city park, state park, national forest, county, state, city. Those are borders. So the halt is a border. And then with that being said, I think you will figure out what this rope is, what that is. So I'm going to start tracing. And first thing I'm going to talk about is Yellowstone, real briefly. And my reason why I don't think it was never in Yellowstone. We've heard through the grapevine that Forrest had gotten some calls and maybe was somewhat pressured to stop the chase. Some people might call it pull it, retrieve it, however you think it is. That's why I don't think it was there. If he was being pressured, I would say Yellowstone is a pretty big organization. And I'm sure that if it was, as a maverick as he was, I don't think it's there if he was being pressured, in my opinion. So that's the first drawing. Oops. And so the next thing I want to talk about is Jack. I don't take a lot of stock into what Jack has to say. And the reason why I say that is I think it's odd that he released his article after Forrest passed away. Granted, he didn't know when Forrest was going to pass away. I understand that. But he had a lot of time to release that article on the Medium before Forrest passed away. And boy, it sure made things confusing after that. And then the fact that Jack has a lot to say that contradicts Forrest. So if I was anybody, I wouldn't take any stock into what he has to say. And next I'll talk about Mike McDonald and Dan Barbarosi. Dan Barbarosi is the one that, in a roundabout way, went through the back door to get Jack to come out. He knew how to get into the back way to find out who this person was, and maybe they would get a hold of him. That did all happen, and Dan had some conversation with him over 2 months period, approximately 2 months, a little less than that. Then you've got this Mike McDonald. A lot of people don't know who this Mike McDonald is, but Mike McDonald was the guy on June 9th, released a Twitter feed that said he would pay somebody $10,000 if they was to deliver the finder to him, a name. Of course, Dan is the one that found Jack. Mike McDonald ended up paying Jack $10,000 and offered Dan $10,000 as well. Dan turned his down and said to give it to Jack. So now Jack has made $20,000 supposedly off of this story that he's the finder. Now, if Dan truly believed that Jack was the finder, why would he give up his $10,000? He's working on a book. Did he not need extra pocket change to fit the bill for this writing of this book, publishing of this book? And if Jack was the true finder, I mean, it's possible he needed it for legal. Maybe Dan thought he needed it for legal fees. But I just find it odd that he gave his $10,000 up to Jack. Because if Jack had the treasure chest for sure, and he was going to auction it off, I mean, it doesn't add up. The whole story doesn't add up. Oh, and then Mike McDonald says on Twitter that he was couldn't believe it was Dan Barbarosi that brought Jack to him because he knows Dan. So, boy, if you could get an interview with Mike McDonald and say Dan Barbarosi, see if they squirm any. I don't know. That story just sounds a little fishy if you ask me. I don't know what you all think, but that's the way I think. So I'm about done with this. You probably started to see some of the similarities already. So here's my two drawings. I hope you can see that okay. But if you was to blow this up, you're not going to be able to see it that way. So anyway, there's the two. You notice this, it's a B. And you've got a B. You've got a line. Got this shadow here. The rust spot and the shadow. And the other thing is, if you turn these sideways, and I've always said a B looks like a 13. See if I can turn this light off so you see better. You can see a little better. I've got a shadow there. Also, there is a logo you can find that logo, which is a 1 and a 3. That's important. Along with this is important. And if you can figure out what this is, which is in the second stanza of the poem as far as direction, it might lead you somewhere. I want to talk a little bit about Forrest the pilot. So you can see this a little better. So Forrest the pilot. Here's a compass wheel. We've got your 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 270, 360. So in June, we'll say this is June, September, December, March, back to June, 1 year later. So on June 5th, 2020, Jack contacts Forrest and asks explicit permission to retrieve the chest. June 6, 2020, Jack retrieves the chest. Here's another thing about Yellowstone I should have added. My assumption is Jack was in Cody. I'm not sure about that, but I can't remember if I've heard that before or not. Somebody can correct me in the comments if you make a comment. I've been through Yellowstone from Cody, and that's a long drive into Yellowstone. And if he slept in, took his sweet time, even had breakfast, it's going to be afternoon before he'd ever get back out of there, back to Cody, and then headed south to Santa Fe. I just I don't see it. I don't see how it's possible that it happened that way. And then here's the other thing about Jack. If he spent the night in Colorado between wherever he was at in Wyoming and Santa Fe, show us something. What's going to hurt? We're just going to know that you did spend the night somewhere with the treasure chest. Whether a receipt proves it or something like that, pictures. Don't wipe the metadata off of the pictures. Don't give us a picture of a picture, that kind of thing. I mean, it's not going to help us get any closer to the treasure chest. It's not even going to come close to getting us there. We already know it's in Wyoming. I mean, some people don't even believe it's Wyoming, but with my solve, it's in Wyoming. Guaranteed. Just a matter of time. So anyway, back to this compass wheel. On June 7th, 2020, Jack meets with Forrest on June 7th. Let's go 90 degrees. The Fenn finale in Yellowstone was September 4th through the 6th, 2020, over Labor Day weekend of last year. Then we find out that Forrest had passed away on September 7th, 2020. June 7th, September 7th. Let's go another 90 to 180 degrees. We're getting some chatter that weekend that there's some information possibly coming out. And we find out on December 7th, the finder from the Medium article is Jack Stoof. June 7th, September 7th, December 7th. All on target. There's a pattern. So I'm assuming March 7th, 2021, at 270 degrees, we're going to get some kind of information. And that's pretty close to the Ides of March that people talk about. And then we'll get to June 7th, 2021, will have been a full year. And Dan Barbarosi, his book's coming out. The release date is showing up on Amazon as June 8th, sorry. June 8th. 1 year and 1 day after. Interesting, huh? So I think this wheel is telling us a lot what's going on. And there's one other thing I wanted to show you. I'm going to add to this video that wasn't on the video yesterday that I did. And this is my famous drawing that some people have seen and some people have not seen. But if you look at the picture of the person that's in the car, if you look at the shape of this, and this is what I emailed Forrest on June 1st. On 2020. And I've done a video of this owl, which sits back into a mountainside. And if the sun hits it just right, it creates an image of an owl on the rock. And behind the trees, when you walk through the trees, this is what it looks like. And I called it the end of rainbow, and the treasure was in here. These were some trees, foliage growing up through here. I've done a video on this. But here's the scissor trees sitting right there. Makes quite a story. And this is a shout out to Bear and Fendi, because I was kind of watching a little bit of their show the other day. And Sissoko they were talking about. Notice how all these statues are covering up the van. There you go. So leave some comments. Let me know what you think. It's appreciated. I know I'm not going to please everybody with what I have to say, but you know, when you're in the chat, you don't really have a voice. And then, you know, I'm not somebody that's been invited to panels. I've been on a couple of panels, just 2 that I'm aware of that was public live. But I know how some of you people are on the chat. You know, I get it. You'd feel like you don't have a voice, and I say, make a video. It's pretty easy. It's not too bad, as long as you don't make a mistake like I did and leave somebody's name and phone number on there. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. It's always appreciated. And thank you for watching. And I don't want to forget the tagline. It's been a hoot. Be safe, be kind, be positive, and have fun.